Next speaker is Lisa Ryan, CSP. She is the Chief Appreciation Strategist at Strategy. She is a certified professional speaker, a certified virtual speaker, and the best-selling author of 11 books. Lisa helps her clients keep their top talent from becoming someone else's. Please join me in welcoming Lisa Ryan.
I want you to think back to your first day in your industry. Now, you might be saying, Lisa, I don't even remember what I had for lunch last week versus my first day in the industry. Just work with me. So whether you showed up at the office or the plant or the job site, you're looking around. Am I going to like these people? Am I going to like my boss? Am I going to like the work, the company, the mission? But there was something about the industry brought you in, but was probably the workplace culture that kept you. I remember my first day. I was in the welding industry. Now I get there and I am the only woman in this room full of guys. And I'm looking around going, what in the world was I thinking? I mean, I knew what a weld was because I live in Northeast Ohio, and welds are the things that hold together the roller coasters at Cedar Point Amusement Park. But how they got there, I had no idea. So we went through training and we learned all the different processes, MIG, TIG, stick. We learned metal prep. We learned joining dissimilar metals and maintenance welding. But it wasn't until I put on that helmet, which I would do, but I'm having a really good hair day today. and I put that down and I struck my first arc. And I saw that red metal starting to flow. And I heard that sound and that very distinctive weld smell that if you're not familiar with it, think the 4th of July and lots of fireworks. And then when I lifted up that helmet and took that chip and hammer, chipped away the slag to see, is it a beautiful bead or not? It was then I fell in love with the industry, but it was the culture and my boss that kept me there. Now you might be saying, Lisa, what in the world does welding have to do with employee retention and engagement, for goodness sake? It has everything. And if you're not familiar with the welding process, you have two pieces of metal and you use a third alloy to join them together using a heat process. So we can use this as an analogy. If you have that one piece of metal is your employee and the other piece of metal is the job, that alloy is everything else. It's your workplace culture, it's your leadership team, it's the coworkers, it's the mission. When fusion happens, now that is what a beautiful weld looks like. I would not be able to break that weld if I took a sledgehammer to it. Let's look at this as that rock star employee. You know, you're not afraid to send them out to be in front of your customers. Their colleagues like working with them. They are more productive than the money that you are paying them, and they are not going to go down the street for 50 cents more an hour. On the other hand, when fusion doesn't happen, now I could probably break that weld with a small chipping hammer. But let's look at that as that toxic, horrible employee who sucks the life out of the room when they come into the room. Their coworkers hate working with them. You're afraid to send them out in front of clients or customers because you have no idea what they say or will do. And when that person starts causing people to leave, think about it. Who leaves? Best employees or worst employees? Your best employees. You can't afford to keep those people. And in a market where it's hard enough to find people, much less keep them, that's what we have to focus on. So in my programs, we work with strategies because workplace culture is everyone's responsibility. There's strategies for the C-suite to help that organization to create the type of workplace culture that keeps your top talent from becoming someone else's. It's that middle, that management team. And you know that employees don't leave their jobs, they leave their managers. We work with strategies for them and the individual contributors because we all play a role. And I do it through the use of gratitude strategies or gratagies, including things like accessibility. Do your people have access to you? Because think about it. Employees these days, they've had access to leadership since they were this high. I mean, when I was young, my parents would be like, we're going on vacation to Florida. These days, parents are saying, it's your turn to pick where we're going on vacation. Where would you like to go? They've had access. So when you have that brand new employee who walks into your office after a week on the job and says, you know what, see some things that can help. And you're doing everything in your power so your eyes do not roll back in your head. Listen to them because they see the world differently. Training, investing in your team members. You might be saying, Lisa, if I spend all that money on training, they're just going to take that and leave anyway. Well, what if you don't invest in them and they stay? In my programs, again, you'll have lots of strategies, not only from my experience for doing this for the past 12 years. Also, we take advantage of the wisdom in the room so you can see what your colleagues and other people in your industry are doing. And finally, we acknowledge excellence. We look for ways to catch our employees in the act of doing things well. One of my favorite studies was done by Marshall Asada, and he looked at team productivity. And on high performing teams, there was a 6-to-1 positivity ratio. What does that mean? For every one negative response, people on that team would get 6 positives. And it wasn't all, oh, yay, everything you do is so good. It's like, it's a good start to an idea. Let's see how we can build on it. It's respectful communication. On an average performing team, that number drops in half, 3 positives for every 1 negative. And you know what? That's where your quiet quitters are hanging out. These are the people that are doing exactly enough work so that they don't get fired. And you're probably paying them exactly enough so that they don't quit. But on a low performing team, it's 0.3 to 1. They're hearing 3 times more negatives than positives. So in my sessions, whether they are live on stage or virtual, I will leave your audience, your participants with real world strategies that they can use immediately. I'm Lisa Ryan. I would love to work with you and your teams, and I appreciate you. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa. We appreciate you also.